Merry Christmas and happy holiday, history friends. Welcome back to Historical USA, where we discover the people, places, and events that made America. Today, we are exploring how the holiday season was celebrated during the colonial era in the 18th century. From Christmas to Hanukkah to the traditions of enslaved and even free Black Americans, we have a lot to uncover. Now let's get started. First, let's set the scene. Christmas in colonial America really was nothing like Christmas that we know today. I mean, they weren't wearing their ugly Christmas sweaters, that's for sure. Now, depending on where you live, as I always say, each colony had their own traditions, customs, and culture. The celebrations varied greatly. In some places, it was a time of joy and feasting, while in others, it was just really seen as nothing more than another day. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, Christmas was actually banned by the Pilgrims for about 20 years, from 1659 to 1681. See, the Puritans saw Christmas as nothing more than a pagan holiday and a time of excessive drinking and revelry. In fact, people were even fined 5 shillings if they were caught celebrating. In William Bradford's diary, in his journal, he explained how he caught a group of men playing cards on Christmas Day and had to fine them the 5 shillings. Now, one minister, Increase Mather, described Christmas as having, quote, no more ground in Scripture than All Hallows, or the Feast of Virgin Mary. He even stated that Christmas was an idolatrous observance of the heathen. Wow. Travel further south, the southern colonies like Virginia, Christmas was the complete opposite. It was a time of grand feasts, dancing, and music. Wealthy families would even hire entertainers like fiddlers and acrobats. One Virginia planter wrote in his diary in 1767, Christmas here is merry, and our hearts are lightened by plenty of good cheer. In Williamsburg, Virginia, the colony's capital, celebrations included fox hunts, horse races, and even balls. The governor's palace hosted a grand feast and roasted meats, pies, and celebrated with a lot of imported wine. In the South, Christmas was rowdy, and it really wasn't even one night. They would celebrate from Christmas Eve to Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night refers to the evening of January 5th, marking the eve of Epiphany, or January 6th, which commemorates the visit of the Magi, or the 3 wise men, to baby Jesus. One popular tradition was the Twelfth Night cake, which contained a hidden bean and pea. The person who found the bean became the Lord of Misrule, and the one who found the pea became the Lady of Misrule. These roles involved leading the festivities and often included playful antics and temporary suspension of social norms. One notable tradition in Virginia, they would have what was called the Twelfth Night Ball, which was actually the highlight of the holiday social season. Guests would draw tickets from a hat to determine the roles, like the king and queen of the festivities. And these roles often came with responsibilities, such as hosting the next year's ball or even baking the next year's Twelfth Night cake. And Christmas down south would get pretty rowdy. Men would fire their guns right up in the air on Christmas morning, and the celebrations could get pretty wild with drinking and merrymaking. Now, the custom of mumming was when people would dress in costumes and perform plays or sing carols that were popular at the time. One account from New York in 1735 described a group of young men dressed in ridiculous habits, going door to door, singing and playing music. Sounds a little bit like the roots of our caroling tradition. Now, for some, Christmas really was just another day of work. Many communities, especially those with strong Puritan influences such as New England, really didn't celebrate it at all. One New England farmer even wrote in his journal on December 25th, 1687, quote, "This day was like any other day, it was spent in labor. In fact, when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, December 25th was the day chosen to start building the first house. Now, many of our beloved Christmas traditions like Christmas trees and gift giving really didn't become popular until the 19th century. The Christmas tree tradition was popularized when more and more German immigrants came to the American colonies. And the poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, published in 1823, really helped to shape our modern image of what would become an American Santa Claus. Now, the poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, is also known as the Night Before Christmas, and it was a pivotal influence in forming many of our modern day Christmas traditions. Now, let's talk about Hanukkah. Hanukkah was celebrated in the American colonies in the 18th century. While Christmas was being banned in some places, Hanukkah was quietly being celebrated by Jewish communities in the colonies. Now, although the Jewish population was small, their traditions were rich and meaningful. Hanukkah, meaning dedication, commemorates the rededication of the ancient temple in Jerusalem. And despite the small Jewish population, Hanukkah was celebrated with the lighting of candles, prayers, and special food like latkes. One Jewish colonist wrote in 1765, quote, "Though our numbers are few, our spirit remains steadfast during Hanukkah." In places like Charleston, South Carolina, Hanukkah was celebrated with hymns and special gatherings. Jewish communities faced challenges but found ways to keep their traditions alive. For example, in Newport, Rhode Island, the Toro Synagogue, which was founded in 1763, hosted Hanukkah celebrations and served as a focal point for the Jewish community. The Toro Synagogue is actually the eldest synagogue building still standing in the United States to light the menorah and celebrate Hanukkah together. In colonial America, even the enslaved and free Black American communities had their own ways of celebrating the holidays. For some enslaved people, Christmas offered a rare break from labor. They might receive gifts like clothes, shoes, or money from their owners. Some were even allowed to travel to see family or to get married. So it was a very important holiday for them. Despite the hardship, they found ways to celebrate and maintain their cultural traditions. Now, enslaved people often exchanged small gifts among themselves, asserting their own power and community bonds despite their harsh circumstances. Now, many enslaved people used the relative looseness of holiday celebrations to express their religious and cultural independence. They would gather for prayer and song, often blending African traditions with Christian practices. Christmas was also a time of resistance. The relative freedom of the holiday allowed some enslaved people to plot their escapes or assert their autonomy in other ways. Enslaved people would often sing spirituals and create makeshift instruments for holiday celebrations. And I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays for everyone who has supported me in this channel here on Historical USA. Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's fascinating, I think, to see how both Christmas and Hanukkah were celebrated during the colonial era and how these traditions have really evolved over time. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.